Welcome to class. This is basic science class, and before we dive into today's topic, we want to look at something. It says, do all metals conduct electricity? And no metals, you might have heard that word and it might not be strange to you, but is it all metals that conduct electricity? So we're going to find out in the course of today's lesson. So we are still considering living and non-living things, and today we are going to be dwelling more on non-living things, majorly non-living things. We have looked at living things in the previous classes, and now we are looking at non-living things. So what are you supposed to take home from today's class? One, you should be able to classify non-living things. If you'd remember, in the previous class we classified our living things, right? So now we're going to classify our non-living things, and you should be able to identify metals. When you see them, you should know, okay, this metal belongs to this group, it belongs to this other group, and this metal can conduct electricity. And I won't say the other one because we're going to find out later. So the next is, you should be able to also state the physical properties of metal, state the principal properties of metal, and you should be able to list the uses of metals, So we're going to class right away. That's classification of non-living things. If you can remember that in the previous class we classified living things into plants and animal. So now we want to classify non-living things. And non-living things also can be classified into two major groups. That means those that are never part of living things. That means you can trace them to living things in any way. They were never part of living things. So it's not that they were living things and they now died. No, they were never part of living things. So we have examples of such metals like your stone. Your stone was never part of living things. Can you trace your stone to any living thing around you? Never. It wasn't gotten from any living thing. Even sand, you cannot trace your sand to any living thing around you. So we have your gold cannot be traced to living thing. You have silver cannot be traced to living things. We have diamonds, you can't trace your diamonds to living things. And you have your metals, you can trace your metals into whether it is iron or steel or carbon, whatever it is. You cannot trace it to living things. So the next group that we have is those that are part of living things. That means these ones, they were previously part of living things. So for example, you have your coal, your charcoal, for example. It was part of living tree. And which of the living tree? The tree. When you fell your tree and it becomes dry, you have your wood, and when you burn your wood, you have your coals. So it was part of a living thing. So you can trace it. You can say the parents of coals are trees. That is it. So you can trace it to living things. Your paper, and if you remember, our question in the previous class was, where do you get your papers from? And by the end of the class, we saw that it was gotten from trees. Yes, so you can trace your paper to trees. You can trace it. So they were part of living things before they became non-living things. Your jam, your palm oil or your groundnut oil or any of your oil, you can trace them to living things. For example, the oil that you see there, you can get them from groundnuts. Sometimes they get them from groundnuts and some other plants. Your cashew nut, you can get your oil, your vegetable oil from your cashew nut. So they were all part of living things. We have some other examples too that they were part of living things before they now changed to living things. So that will lead us to the next topic. Remember, I told you that non-living things, the ones that cannot be got, example of the ones that are not previous, they were not part of living things before, was metal. So we're going to be looking at metals. So what are metals? Metals are solid materials. Note that word, solid materials. A compound, element or alloy obtained from a natural product known as iron ore found in some places under the earth. I'm going to go again, this time around slow, so that you can get me. Metals are solid materials, a compound, element, or alloy obtained. They are obtained from a natural product known as iron ore. So you get your metals from iron ore. And where do you find your iron ore? They are found in some places under the earth. They are found in some places, so you can find them everywhere. Just like crude oil, you don't find crude oil everywhere. Same thing with your iron ore, you don't find them everywhere. They are found in some places under the earth. So a metal is hard when in solid state. So that was, I say, solid. They are made. They are solid material. So it is hard when it is in its solid state. It is opaque. That means you cannot see through it. You cannot. It's not like glass that you can see through. No, metals are not like that. You can't see through glass, through metals, and they are shiny. When you see them, they are shiny in nature, and some of them are good conductors of heat and electricity. Some of them are good conductors of heat and electricity. So you know your metals. Metals are solid materials obtained from a natural product known as iron ore. They are gotten from iron oil, and iron oil is found under the earth. Not in every place, but some places under the earth. So very quickly, we're going to look at the next one, examples of metals. So when I see metal, how will I identify examples of metals? We have your copper, you have your iron, you have your steel, your tin, your aluminium, your high carbon steel, your nichrome, your silver, gold, zinc, and a lot of other ones. So these are the examples of metals. You have, so when I want to bring it home now. In your home, when you have your iron spoon, that is a metal. When you have your iron pot, that is a metal. So when you have chairs that contains iron, that is what metal. So you will say, I don't know, how will I know that this is okay? How will I identify metal in my environment? I've just given you some examples of metal to help you understand this topic better. Your gold, maybe your mom has a gold wristwatch, that is metal. Gold necklace, that is metal. So those things. Your silver, maybe silver necklace, your mom had maybe a silver necklace, silver earring, those are metals. So very quickly, we're going to look at the types of metals. So we want to look at types of metals. So we looked at the definition of metals, the examples. Now we're going to the types of metals. Metals are classified into two groups, namely ferrous and non-ferrous metals. So you have your metals into two large groups. One is ferrous and the other is non-ferrous metals. So what are ferrous metals? When we talk about ferrous metals, and how do you know that this is ferrous? How can you differentiate it from non-ferrous metal? Ferrous metal, these are metals that contain iron. That is the only difference. That is how it is. You can differentiate it from non-ferrous metals. So they contain iron. So as such, they can be attracted to any magnetic properties. So how will you know that this particular metal contains iron? When you take a magnet close to it, they are attracted. They are pulled towards the magnet. And for example, your nail, if you have a magnet there, just take it close to your nail. And you see that it will pull, it will attract the nail. Before you know, you see that the nail is clinging to the magnet. That is what it shows, that it is metal. Your razor blade, when you have your razor blade, these are things that you know around you. Razor blade, if you take it close to a magnetic substance or a magnet, you see that it will pull it to itself. So that's how you will know that this is a ferrous metal. It contains iron. And their major characteristics is that they are attracted to magnetic. They can be attracted to any magnet. That is, anything that contains magnetic properties, they are attracted to it. It pulls them. You have your steel. So these are ferrous metals. Do not forget, we are coming from types of metals, and we said we have ferrous and non-ferrous metals. And your ferrous metals, they contain iron. Ferrous metals contain iron. So we want to look at your non-ferrous metals. Non-ferrous metals. Non-ferrous metals, these are metals that don't contain iron. So they cannot be attracted to any magnetic substance. If you take magnets very close to them, it won't pull them. They won't be attracted because they do not contain iron. So now you can differentiate your ferrous metals from non-ferrous metals. Ferrous metals, they contain iron. Non-ferrous metals, they do not contain iron. Ferrous metals, they possess magnetic properties. That means they can be attracted to magnets. Non-ferrous metals, they cannot be attracted to magnets. Reason being that what? They do not contain iron. So what are the examples of your non-ferrous metal? We have your aluminium. You can see this aluminium zinc in making buildings, in construction of. So if you take your magnet close to it, it will not attract it. It will not attract it to itself. If you can see from the video playing, that is aluminium, and it will not. If you take your magnet close towards it, it's not going to attract. It will not attract it. So you have your copper and you have your cast iron. Now you will tell me, okay, how will I know that? How can I find these non-ferrous metals at home? For example, if your mother bakes, or if you have someone that bakes around you, check the baking pan. It is made of aluminium. It will not. Take your magnet close towards it, it's not going to attract it. So it's showing you that this is a non-ferrous metal. That's a good example I can give you. Just check your baking pan. Take it towards it. It will not attract it because it is a non-ferrous metal and it does not contain iron. So a very quick recap: we have two types of metals. It is ferrous and non-ferrous metal. Ferrous metal contains iron. Non-ferrous metals, they do not contain iron. Ferrous metals, they are attracted by magnets. They are attracted by magnetic stuff, and they can be attracted by magnet. But non-ferrous metals, they cannot be attracted by magnets. And we have looked at various examples of ferrous and non-ferrous metals. We're going to the next one, that is alloys of metals. Alloys of metal. You might be wondering, what is alloys of metal again? So it is simple. An alloy is the mixture of two or more metals to form a new metal. It is the mixture of two or more metals to form a new metal. Whenever you hear of alloy of something, that means you are mixing two or more things, materials together to form another thing. So alloys of metal is the mixture of two or more metals to form a new metal. So you are not just having one, you're having two combination to form a new metal. So there are two types of alloys. So just the way we have two types of metals, we have two types of alloys of metals, and they are very closely related with metals to the classification, the types of metals. So it's just that one is ferrous, that is, we have ferrous and non-ferrous alloys, just like we have ferrous and non-ferrous metals. So how do you differentiate ferrous alloys from non-ferrous alloys? Ferrous alloys, these are alloys these are the mixtures of two or more ferrous metals. Those are ferrous alloys. When you have the mixture of two or more ferrous metals, you have ferrous alloys. That means for you to have a ferrous alloys, you mix one metal with another metal. One ferrous metal, not just any metal, one ferrous metal with another ferrous metal to have your ferrous alloys. So we have example. We have your carbon plus steel plus tungsten will give you high-speed steel. Your carbon plus steel plus tungsten. Carbon is metal, steel is metal, tungsten is metal. So when you mix these three together, you have your high-speed steel. So your high-speed steel is an example of ferrous alloys. Ferrous alloys. So we have the second group, which is the non-ferrous alloys. So this is the mixture of two or more non-ferrous metal to form another product, just like you have for your ferrous alloys. You have non-ferrous alloys. So you're going to mix two or more non-ferrous metals to form another product. Maybe I should quickly remind you, remember that ferrous metals, they contain iron. So if you're going to eat a non-ferrous metal, they do not contain iron. That means you are mixing two or more metals that do not contain iron to form your non-ferrous alloys. Non-ferrous alloys. So we have example. Example is when you mix your copper plus tin plus aluminium, it gives you bronze. So your bronze is a non-ferrous metal, is a non-ferrous alloy. When you take your magnet towards it, it's not going to attract it, it's not going to pull it toward itself. So it shows that it is non-ferrous alloys. So copper itself is a non-ferrous metal, tin is a non-ferrous metal, aluminium is a non-ferrous metal, and when you mix these three together, it's going to give you a non-ferrous alloy. name, and the name is bronze. You have your bronze. And another example is when you mix your copper and zinc together. You remember that copper is a non-ferrous metal, zinc is a non-ferrous metal. When you mix these two, you have your brass. You have your brass. And example of brass instrument, let me just use examples, maybe the ones you can know, the ones that are very readily available. When your trumpet is a brass instrument, it's brass, made up of brass. Take your magnet close to it, it's not going to attract it, because the combinations are made of non-ferrous metals to form its alloy, which is brass, so it will not attract it to itself. So a quick recap, we have two types of metals: ferrous and non-ferrous metals. And the difference is ferrous metals, they contain iron. Non-ferrous metals, they do not contain iron. Now we have alloys of metals, and under it we have the ferrous and non-ferrous alloys. Ferrous alloys, they are the mixture of one or two, two or more ferrous metal. That is, metals that contain iron. When you mix them together, two or more of them, you have your ferrous metals, ferrous alloys. And your non-ferrous alloys is when you mix two or more metals that do not contain iron, you have your non-ferrous alloys. So we want to look at the physical properties of metals. What are the physical properties of metals? Number one is density. This means that metals have weight. All metals have weight. You talk of your pot, your iron pot, it has weight. So all metals, they all have weight. Density, this means that the metals have weight. Number two is magnetic property. I know by now you already know that not all metals have these magnetic properties, and the ones that do not have these magnetic properties are called non-ferrous metals. So metals can be attracted to magnets, but the metals that can be attracted to magnets alone are ferrous metal, but it's still part of the physical properties of metals. They have magnetic property. They can be attracted to magnet. Just as you see in the video, that magnet is attracting another metal, attracting metal to itself to show that it has a magnetic property. Number three is conductivity. So I said something earlier that do all metals conduct electricity? Do all metals conduct electricity? Not all metals conduct electricity. Not all metals conduct electricity. So you will know that it is not all metals. Metals conduct, they are good conductors of electricity, but not all metals can conduct electricity. So metals are good. Conductivity is another physical properties of metals. They are good conductors of electricity. Number four is sand test. Take your spoon and take your iron pot and hit them together. It's going to produce a sand. So metals, they produce sand. Different metals produce different sand on its own. They produce different sand. Take your baking pan and hit it with something. Hit it with either your pen, your pencil, even with a spoon is going to produce sand. So different metals produce sand. Hit your golds together, hit your silver together, they produce sand. Hit your zinc, your aluminum, your copper together, they produce sand. So it's one of the physical properties of metals. Number one is density. Number two is magnetic property. Number three is conductivity. Number four is sand test. That means different metals produce different sands. And yes, you can take your zinc and hit it. It's going to produce a different sand from that of gold, and it's going to produce a different type from that of steel. So they all produce different sand. Ability to produce sand is one of the properties of metals. Number five is brittleness. Some metals can break under heavy weight or pressure. There are some metals, notice the word some, not all metals. Some metals can break under heavy weight or pressure. So that is what we call brittleness. When you put pressure on them, when you put heavy weight on them, they can break. They can break. Number six is ductility. This is the ability of metals to be stretched out like thin wires, especially when heated. When you pass them through some process in the industry and you apply heat to them, they can be stretched out like thin wires, such as you have in your wires at home. Yes, that passes electricity. You have a tiny wire in between in them. Those are metals that have been stretched out like, and they are made thin so they can what? Pass electricity. So ductility, this is the ability of metal to be stretched out like thin wires, especially when heated. Number 6, we have toughness. Toughness, the ability of some metals to resist breaking. You know, I said in number 5 we talked about breakiness. Some metals can break under heavy weight or pressure, and I said some. Notice the word some, but it's not all metals. Metals are tough, is one of their properties. So the ability of some metals to resist breaking, they can, no matter the pressure you put on them, they can resist breaking, cracking, and bending. Such as your gold, before you can break it, you have to pass through a lot of, so it can resist breaking, it can resist cracking, and it can resist bending. So we have number 8, malleability. Malleability, when metals can be beaten to desired shape after it. In one of the slides, you can see that a man was molding parts. So you can beat some metals into your desired shape. You can beat after hitting them, and they are not very hard, they are not yet very cool. You can beat them into, and that's why we have different shapes of metal. You have your pot, you have your cutlass, you have your nails, you have they have been beaten into different shape. Your pans and your baking and the rest, they have been beaten in. Your spoon was beaten into all those. So it's malleable. You can beat them into your desired shape. When it's still under heat, after heating it, you can beat them into your desired shape. Number 9 is hardness. Hardness, this is the property, is different from toughness. Toughness means that you can break it, but hardness is the property of some metals not to dent. There are some metals that no matter how you hit them on stone, you know, stone is hard to, it will not dent. You won't see it's going inside or whatever it is, it won't. So it possesses that quality of hardness. So some metals, they do not dent. That is hardness. That is a property of some metals. No matter how you try to hit them on something that is very hard, it will never dent. You won't see any sign, anything on it. And number 10 is fusibility. This is the ability of metals to be able to mix with other metals in their liquid form to form another product. So the ability of metals to be able to mix with other metals in their liquid form to form another product is fusibility. So very quickly, we're going to look at the uses of metal. We just considered the properties, the physical properties of metal. Now we'll just try to do a recap of some of them: malleability, ductility, hardness, toughness, and magnetic properties, and the rest. So those are the properties, physical properties of metals. So we want to look at uses of metals. Are metals useful? Yes. Number 1, we have iron. Iron is used in making cars. You are surprised that your cars are metals too. Iron is used in making cars, ships, lorries, ovens, generator, poles, corrugated iron sheets. So these are produced from these are things that are produced from iron. So those things I just mentioned, and they all fall under the categories of metals. Your car is a metal, your ship is a metal, your lorry is a metal, your oven is a metal. Generator, most part of it are metals. They are gotten from irons, and they used to build them. Poles, your corrugated iron sheet, they are made from metals, and the name of the metal they are made from is iron. Number 2 is steel is used in making electric fans, steel roofing, pillars, and refrigerators. Steel, when you have your steel metal, you can produce electric fan from it, you can make steel roofing from it, you can make pillars and refrigerators. So all these things too are metal. They can be categorized under metal. So when you're looking at examples of metals around you, they are not far-fetched. They are very close. They are things that you see every day, things you make use every day. So you can see your steel, your refrigerator is a metal because it's made from steel. Your steel roofing is a metal because it's made from steel. Electric fans is a metal because it's made from steels. Then the next is you have your copper. Copper is used in making electric wire. If you remember, I said they passed when we talked about some metals that you can beat them into tiny wires. Example is copper. You can beat it into an so that you can used to make electric wires. So when you see your electric wire, you know that what is inside it is metal that is capable of conducting electricity. So that is an example of metal. So number 4 is aluminium is used in making electric wire and cooking pot. Aluminium also is used in the making of electric wire and your cooking pot. And you should be familiar with names such as aluminium pots. You have your aluminium pots. It's made from metal. So if you want to be sure if it's metal, just take a hard object and hit it on it, you hear a sound. So that is what a metal. So your aluminium is used in making electric wire and cooking pots. And number 5, you have steel can also be used in making household utensils such as your pots, such as your oven, such as your spoons. They are all made from steel. You have number 6, lead. Lead is used in making car and lorries batteries. Without battery, your car will not start. It will not start. There's no magic that you can do without putting batteries in your car or your lorries or your Lexus Jeep or whatever it is. It will not start. So, and what is used in making the battery is lead. It is lead. And most time you hear people talk about lead batteries. So you use your lead to make what? It's used in making car and lorries batteries. And number 7, you have that zinc is used in making torch batteries and covering iron sheet to prevent rusting. Zinc is used in making torch batteries. Your torch lights, yes, the batteries you put in there some of them are made from zinc. Same with your wrist, your wall clock. The batteries you put in there, some of them are made from zinc, and covering iron sheet to prevent rusting. That is coating a metal with another metal. You are coating a metal with zinc to prevent it from rusting, because rusting also is one of the properties of metals. Metals rust, so you can coat it with another metal to prevent rusting. And one of the metals you can use to coat another metal to prevent rusting is zinc. So we want to look at some questions from ExamGuide. So we have a question here. It says general characteristics of metal include the following except that they. 1. I want you to note the word here they use there, the general characteristics. So general, it's comprehensive from what we have learned so far from the physical properties of matter. Those are the general properties, characteristics of matter. So we want to look at option A. Says they are electronegative. Option B says they are strong and hard. Option C says they are good conductor of heat. Option D says can be polished. Option E says they are malleable. So let's check it. Put it side by side with what we've just learned. So A are electronegative. B are strong and hard. Yes, one of the physical properties of metal is they are strong and hard. C is a good conductor of it. Yes, they are good conductor of it. D can be polished. Okay, let's go to the next option. They are malleable. So we have 3 options out: B, C, and E, because they are all part of the general characteristics. So let's look at A and D. Are electronegative and can be polished. And when you're going to look at this closely, you will see that D is the answer. The general characteristics of metal include the following except that they can be polished. It's not part of the characteristics of it, except, so it is not one of the characteristics of metal. We have another question. Which of the following is a non-metal? Which of the following is a non-metal? And we have A, aluminium, we have B, iron, C, magnesium, D, carbon, E, zinc. So let's go through it. Aluminium, yes, is a metal. Okay. Iron, is it a metal or not? It's a metal. Classifying them. C, you have magnesium. Is magnesium a metal or non-metal? We're coming back to it. D, we have carbon. Is carbon a metal or non-metal? It is a metal. E, is carbon. Is zinc a metal or non-metal? It is a metal. So we have option C. It is a non-metal. So the non-metal in this group is option C, which is magnesium. It is a non-metal. We have the next question, which is steel is an alloy of A, iron and oxygen, iron and nitrogen, iron and sulfur, carbon and iron, chlorine and iron. So we're going to go through it. One, we see that there's a common factor with every of the option, which is iron. That means iron is an important alloy of steel. So you have iron and carbon. Carbon and iron, when you mix these two metals together, you have your steel. Thank you for participating in today's class. You can practice more questions using the ExamGuide app. The app scores and gives detailed explanations of all the questions at the end of your practice test. You can also learn a particular topic of interest with different modes like study modes, mock modes, and practice modes. It has other features that make learning fun. It is a must for all serious students. Download from www.examguide.com if you don't have it yet. See you in the next class. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell and share the video with others that will benefit from it. Bye for now.